The following program on KROC is sponsored and paid for by Meshbesher Spence.
Zach Bauer is here in the studio, and I think this is going to be an interesting little talk. If what we talked about off-air is any indication, let's jump right into this. We've all heard of no means no, but apparently now, Zach, there is something. Yes means yes. Maybe you can explain that to us.
Yeah, so yes means essentially that there must be some affirmative steps taken by individuals before they can consent to sex on a college campus.
Okay, so I was going to say, we need to set the ground here that this is for our college campus. This is college campuses across the country are starting to go to this system to combat women who are being raped.
Absolutely. So, serious problem. Sexual assaults across the country and college campuses are substantially up over the course of the last 5 years. Whether that's the fact they're actually up or whether that's the fact they're more reported now is kind of something that's still yet to be determined, I think. But that was kind of the focus of why there was this change that was made from no means no, where the person that is the accuser has to basically show why exactly this maybe went wrong that night, versus yes means yes, which puts the onus more on the person that's being accused.
Sure.
And this happened initially in 2014. California and their college system essentially put it in place, and now across kind of the United States there's been this real push. And the University of Minnesota in early July adopted it. Kind of put it on hold a few days later, so there'd be a little bit more of an exploration as to something they're actually going to implement. But I would imagine within the next 30 to 60 days, it will be something that does go into effect.
Well, we kind of, as you came in, I said, are we talking yes means yes has to do with the sex policy on campuses? And it's funny. And you said, well, guess where I come down on this, the legal aspect of it, which we'll get to.
Right.
But can I just say that when I first heard about it, I thought it was ridiculous and didn't make any sense at all. But the more I think about it, the bigger point of it bringing to light the problem of what drinking and sexual assault and how it all ties in together, that it probably helps a conversation be had, or at least some thoughts come to people's minds, and maybe it will be helpful.
It could be helpful, and I think that's kind of the key component. And where my frustration to some degree is the idea that we seem to not think about what is usually the underlying consideration to a lot of these incidents, which are that people are inebriated a lot on college campuses. And for us not to take that into consideration seems to be a little bit odd. I mean, the idea that a lot of these situations where you have kind of a he said, she said situation, one, if not both of the parties are intoxicated.
Yeah.
And to the point that some of them may be the point they're incapacitated.
Right.
So it is, to me, that's where we get into a little bit of a gray area. We can all kind of joke about the postcards and the idea that, I'm supposed to take a picture with my partner.
Sign the postcard.
Or sign the back of it. But the idea is that there are some, first of all, real-life consequences for those people that are actually hurt by sexual assault.
Sure.
And there are real-life consequences for those people that are accused as well. And what people don't sometimes understand is that in the justice system, we have a proof beyond a reasonable doubt situation where the onus is on the state of Minnesota and the government to be able to prove the accuser is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's not always the standard on college campuses, and quite frankly, that's usually abnormal for it to be the standard. Most college campuses have standards where it is by what we call preponderance of the evidence. So the burden on the accused or the university before they take action against a person.
The accused or the accuser?
The burden on the accused.
The accused, okay.
On the accuser.
Okay.
So the University of Minnesota, for instance, as an example, would have to show that an act occurred typically by a preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not that it occurred before they take action against the accused.
Sure.
So it's not as if there's a standard that's really high anyway compared to the criminal justice system. And now by yes mean yes, that actually flips that to is now on the accused to be able to show what did you do that makes this consensual.
Sure.
Okay, well, and right now this isn't a law we're talking about. This is campus policies from campus to campus. Does this have meaning beyond college? In other words, people that are dating outside of the college world that go out and have drinks and dinner, and I mean, will this just keep growing into something else.
I find it highly unlikely, given the due process clause in the Constitution. I don't think there's any way that this could actually be enacted from a criminal perspective. I think we're looking at just the consequences that would flow on campus for people. But those consequences are obviously pretty important. I mean,
yeah, those people leave those campuses and go out into the real world, and
it's the label, it's the stigma, and you obviously have to be very cognizant of the fact that there are lots of people that are victims of these crimes.
Sure.
They go unreported, which is a tragedy in of itself. But at the same point, there has to be a process that I think is, in my perspective, always fair to the person that's accused, because due process is meant for the defendants. As sad as that may seem, the Constitution wasn't written for victims, unfortunately. It was written for defendants. So.
Well, and in some cases, some of these high-profile college cases that we've heard about, I mean, you hear about hazing and peer pressure and initiations and things like that, so some of that plays into it as well.
Then it ends up to not be true. I mean, there's somebody crying wolf on the whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, we had the Duke lacrosse case from a number of years ago where that was heavily litigated, actually ended up being something we were charged criminally with, as well as what happened on campus. But the undercurrent, I guess, for college kids to kind of understand, if we have those listeners, is that you just need to drink responsibly.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is really what a lot of this comes down to, is do not put yourself in a situation where you are compromised when it comes to your facilities to think clearly.
Young men and young women.
That goes on both sides.
Both sides.
Yep. Make sure you're drinking responsibly, because we're not all naive enough to know that people wait till they're 21. But boy, there can be long-lasting effects for bad decisions on nights.
So I guess you could say how much you drink makes a difference, and the lawyer you choose makes a difference.
Oh,
that was good.
Wow.
I was trying to wrap it up here.
That's my boss there, Zach.
Not his first rodeo, is it?
It is not. What should people do if they have questions?
If they have questions, give us a call at 507-280-8090 or visit us online at www.meshbesher.com.
I'm a professional here.
Wow, you really are. There's at least one of us in this room.
A couple of minutes away from 10 o'clock. Thanks, Zach.